Hello, hello, and welcome to K.I.S.S Recovery. This is Bridge. I'm going to be your host tonight. I have a wonderful guest with me. I'm going to let her introduce herself. We're going to talk about some real stuff tonight, and I'm excited because, especially with the topic, I find that I know there are many people that are well-meaning, but there's a lot of judgments in this world, and I find that you're the perfect person to have this discussion because, immediately my walls are down. So beware, listeners, you're in for a treat. This is a live show, so feel free to ask questions, post comments. We're going to be making sure to check that. But go ahead, guest. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Chelsea. I am a mother of two rambunctious boys, 3 and 5. I'm married, and yes, I met Bridge walking into an AA meeting, Bad Moms, and her energy and your positive attitude is what kept me coming back for more. And I just look forward to it every single Monday to see you. And every time I walk in, I'm like, my family. Yes, this is my family.
This is my peoples.
My peeps.
Oh my gosh, yes. And that charisma. And
Yes.
I think what's important, so the group that you're referring to is called Bad Moms. I like to affectionately call Badass Moms.
Badass.
And we do it together. And it's not just moms. It's any, people have or had little people in their life, right? So aunts, stepmoms, grandmoms, friends of moms, name them, all are welcome. But it's a safe place that I feel like I wasn't able to find in other support meetings because that is where my shame and guilt really was buried. And it was not intentional, but a lot of the meetings I felt like I would share some of those regrets or things that, wasn't the best. Definitely had many bad mom moments.
Oh,
just
yeah.
a lot of looks and looks of concern or whatever you want to call it.
Judgment.
Yeah. And so I couldn't get any relief, and that's the key to letting go of shame and guilt is to be able to talk about it.
Absolutely.
So,
Man, connecting with other moms and just parents in general. You need that in life.
absolutely. And so the clip, you know what? Would you be open? I'm thinking we could just jump into the clip,
Yeah, whatever you
and
want to
then
do.
we'll go right off of that. So I love Brene Brown,
You've mentioned her a time or two.
and I love TED Talks.
Yes.
And I love inspiring or just knowledge. And just, for me, the way to my path, one of my paths of recovery, is to really dig deep into myself and figure out, why I feel the way I feel or felt the way I felt, and breaking those cycles that I was continuously in. And this Brene is just so wise, but this is just going to be a 2-minute clip, but when she tapped into this, I was an emotional mess. I had to go to a meeting that night because I'm like, why am I so upset about this? And so, we'll play the clip and talk about that, and I'll let you just share on what you think about this clip. So, my assistant, Martin's on. Hi, Martin.
Hi, Martin.
So this is guilt. What I like about this topic tonight is yes, we're going to focus on mom guilt, but it's really parent guilt, or anyone with little people or have or had them. And also it's we are going to talk about the big difference between shame and guilt and what the solutions are for that. So Sally's my assistant speaker, tech person. She's gonna
Power on.
She's gonna get us going here.
Bluetooth pairing.
She connects my Bluetooth. She's on it. Okay. So, and do you have anybody listening in tonight?
Actually, I think my husband might be listening in.
Okay.
So if you are, hello, Bucky.
Shout out to Bucky.
Yeah. I don't know. And then my mom wanted to. She might be in bed. She's a little old.
Well, and this is how open and willing and honest I am. My daughter should be hopefully listening. Shout out to Juliet.
Yeah. We have to be open and honest.
Yes. It took years. But Okay, here we go. So 2 minutes, 13 seconds. So the video, if anybody wants to ever recatch it, is on YouTube, and it's Shame versus Guilt, Brene Brown. Okay.
The thing to understand about shame is it's not guilt.
Okay.
Shame is a
Oh.
focus on self. Guilt is a focus
Guilt
on
is...
behavior.
Okay, hey, got a second? I just gotta... Yeah, I didn't have the Bluetooth set up. That was my bad. It's been a long weekend, I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, my kids were off a whole week.
Oh,
for
spring break. Yes.
It really threw me in a
It's-
little bit of a spiral.
Oh my gosh.
Woo!
You like don't even know what to do. Your life is like turned upside down.
Bluetooth connected.
I felt like a failure pretty much every night. Dishes weren't done,
That
laundry's
mom
not
guilt.
done, and come home to a mess, leave the house a mess. I'm like, what is going on? Okay, sorry. Now it's ready. Now I'm going to start it from the beginning. Okay, here we go.
The thing to understand about shame is it's not guilt. Shame is a focus on self. Guilt is a focus on behavior. Shame is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad. How many of you, if you did something that was hurtful to me, would be willing to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake? How many of you would be willing to say that? Guilt. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Shame. I'm sorry, I am a mistake. There is a huge difference between shame and guilt. And here's what you need to know. Shame is highly, highly correlated with addiction, depression, violence, aggression, bullying, suicide, eating disorders. And here's what you even need to know more. Guilt, inversely correlated with those things. The ability to hold something we've done or failed to do up against who we want to be is incredibly adaptive. It's uncomfortable, but it's adaptive. If you put shame in a petri dish, it needs 3 things to grow exponentially: secrecy, silence, and judgment. If you put the same amount of shame in a petri dish and douse it with empathy, it can't survive. The 2 most powerful words when we're in struggle: me too. And so I'll leave you with this thought. If we're going to find our way back to each other, vulnerability is going to be that path. And I know it's seductive to stand outside the arena because I think I did it my whole life and think to myself, I'm going to go in there and kick some ass when I'm bulletproof and when I'm perfect. And that is seductive. But the truth is, that never happens. And even if you got as perfect as you could and as bulletproof as you could possibly muster, when you got in there, that's not what we want to see. We want you to go in. We want to be with you and across from you. And we just want for ourselves and for the people we care about and the people we work with to dare greatly. So thank y'all very much. I really appreciate it.
Woo!
Oh,
Is she spot on?
yes. Oh my gosh, so many like just things I can think about, you know. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, what does that make you think about? I'm going to lower this because I'm just too short and I feel far away.
For me, it's like the shame. Oh, I just always wonder if I'm doing the right thing. You know, I'm not good enough. Like we were talking about earlier, you know, you get sucked down that social media rabbit hole, and am I doing enough? Am I not doing enough? You know, you compare yourself, and then you start getting in your head that I'm a terrible mom. I'm a terrible person. You know, and then like another thing that I thought too was like just with me in my recovery, I was always waiting for a certain moment to, you know, I knew I wanted to get sober, but I was always waiting for a certain moment, like the perfection. Well, how can you be, you can't, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I was literally at rock bottom and I needed help. And so, you know, just realizing that it's okay to not be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned that. I've had to learn that in the last couple months. You know, I'm new in sobriety. I think today is day 77.
Okay.
And thanks. And I mean, oh my gosh, just so many things in my mind the last couple months, but like amazing things. And I'm just overwhelmed with all the support that I have, and from feeling so alone and, just guilty and like all of these feelings. Just, and now it's like, man, my life is just getting better and better, and it's great.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I think it's key too, to be able to be vulnerable and finding Bad Moms Club. Shout out Lane Alleno.
Yes.
Mondays.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. It's a hybrid meeting, so you can catch it virtually or in person. But finding that safe space where I can be vulnerable. And, like, not every meeting do we have tears, but many times in that meeting, a couple women will be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to cry. And we're like, girl, cry!
Let it out. We're
this
like,
is the
here's
place.
the tissues.
Yep. We usually have a couple of Kleenex
Yes.
boxes. This, if anywhere, is the place we want you to do that.
Right. And that's where I feel like I could. It's like, I had been to meetings before, and they're all great. I haven't been to a bad meeting, but then it's like I went to the Monday night meeting, and I walked in, and I'm just like, all right, these are my peeps. Like, and like, just, there's days when I'm not even on topic, and you're like, say whatever you need to say, and I'm like, man, my kids sucked today. Like, they were just a-holes, and I stay at home with them. So it's like, I have the guilt or the shame, like the guilt of that, the mom guilt of like, I should be working, but then I would miss them growing up. And then it's like, well, I stay home with them, but I should be working. And it's just, I just feel like as a parent, as a mom, like you just can't win because there's always, it's like if you do too much for them, you're a bad mom. You don't do enough, you're a bad mom. It's like, where's the happy medium? Because there's no, I need like a rule book or something to tell me what to do because I'm just winging it every day.
Yes.
And it's just like great going into the Bad Moms meeting and just all these people get it.
Yep.
That's the biggest thing. The head nods, because those little head nods are what keep me going. It's like I say something that sounds in my head. If I were to say it to some other people that don't have children or have never been around little people, they're like, that doesn't make any sense. And everybody in Bad Moms is like, yep, my kid was an asshole today too. I get it.
Yes.
Like, oh
my gosh. And I think like, oh, see, Juliet's on. Hi, honey. Love you too.
Oh, hi.
So the guilt and the shame. So finally understanding the difference, because guilt is, I made a mistake. But shame is, I am a mistake. And I lived in that shame for years without even realizing it. I did not have, healthy, supportive people around me. That was key. And just the times in the meetings, it just wasn't enough. I was so much in my own shame that I wouldn't even let my walls down. And I remember, like, I was just so used to forever just punishing myself because I did these things as a mother that I said I would never do, and of course one by the not yets, but one by one I was doing them. That addiction is a disease. I'd like to clarify that is a disease. And when I couldn't even stop for my kids, I did it for my ex-husband, I did it for the courts, I did it for all the people around me, my job, whatever, all those other reasons, I thought, well, I'm going to do this for my kids this time. Like, that's going to be it. And when I couldn't do it, that was when I really felt defeated. And I really felt shame. And I felt like I was a mistake. And what changed it for me was the third treatment that I went into. Oh, man, I was an asshole, for real. I was such an asshole. But I remember the counselor had us write letters to ourselves, to say all the things that we wanted to say to ourselves. And of course, in that state of mind, I was very angry with myself. I was very, frustrated and hurt. I was in a lot of pain, and I was very much embarrassed and ashamed. And so I said a lot of messed up things to myself, but that was really where my head was at. And that's really where I was. And I had lost the kids at that point. So I was saying things like, see, it still makes me feel emotional already. But I was saying things like, you deserve everything you've got. That's happened to you. You deserve to be punished. You're a terrible person. You're a terrible mother. Like, no wonder nobody wants anything to do with you. I said all these horrible things, and you deserve to feel be punished and feel pain. And so then the counselor, she read it, and she's like, okay, let's read this out loud. And I'm like, no, I don't need to read it out loud. I just wrote it. I know exactly what it is.
I know what it says.
I know what you're trying to do here. But she did turn it, she was able to make her point, and she said, so you have a daughter, right? You know, and it could be a daughter, a sister, just a brother, your mother, anyone that mattered, that you care about. What if that person was sitting where you're at right now, in addiction, fighting this, you know, going through, had consequences? Would you say these things to your daughter? Ooh, it still makes me emotional. And that's when it hit. That's when it really struck a chord with me, because, you know, that is something, of course, I fear. You know, that's why I'm an open book with my kids, and I do a living amends. But that, like, I could then see that my daughter, which now I see is that little girl inside me, if she ever went through anything like that, of course I would be the opposite. I would say, honey, I love you.
I'm here for you.
You don't have to do this alone. I'm with you. I will do anything for you. Like, we got this, you know? And so then she said, Bridge, you need to say these things to yourself. Why are you saying these other things to yourself?
I just got chills.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
She's like, you need to say these things to yourself, you know? And it was important, because that was the moment that I could understand and finally start to forgive myself, because I never could forgive myself. I wouldn't let myself forgive myself. And that's when it sunk in, and that's when I could finally, forgive myself and really start to get to know myself and give myself empathy. And that was the moment, that was when I was finally starting, that's when I finally was able to love myself. But I realized up until that point, I never even loved myself. So how could you give love if you know, they say that.
Yes.
But it's true. Like,
I love that you said that, because that's where I am right now in my recovery journey. And it's like, before, I didn't feel deserving of anything, you know, and especially like our alcoholic minds, you know, we're obviously everybody's hard on themselves. We're our own worst critic, but being an alcoholic, you're even worse, because, you know, now we're trying to better ourselves, and we're in recovery, and you have that guilt of all the things that you've done and you've said, and, you know, who you were, and the decisions that you made, and, you know, things like that. And like you said, like, you couldn't even do it for the kids. I mean, for me, my prime time was like, I put the kids down. I'm like, I deserve this drink.
Oh yeah.
You know, well, no, you know, then one drink turns into 12 and 3 shots, and on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I deserved it, because, you know, I stay at home with the kids, and I take care of the kids, and this and that. But then it was like a vicious cycle. The next day I was getting up, I felt so crappy. I wasn't there mentally for my children. I was there physically doing all the things, but I wasn't enjoying myself. And then I would just beat myself up, and it was just this terrible feeling of just the guilt of, I knew I was making these decisions, and I just couldn't stop. And I'm like, I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be this person for my husband, for my kids, for my family, you know. And then it's like, you try to take care of things on your own. And then I'm learning now that it's okay to ask for help.
Absolutely.
And that, you know, it's like, it's all right.
Yes.
I don't
It's
have
so
to
important
know.
to ask for help.
Right. And I don't have to have the answer to everything. I'm not supposed to.
Right. Yes.
You know, that's why there is a higher power greater than myself.
Yes.
Because I'm not the greatest thing in the world.
Me neither.
So,
Far from it.
Yes. So I feel that, what you were saying, because it's like, that's where I am right now. I'm learning to love myself and not be so hard on myself. And, you know, I used to be like, oh, gosh, I'm so fat. And then I saw this thing, and it was like, you are not supposed to look like how you looked in high school. You are a mom. You are an adult. You know, you are not supposed to look like that.
Right.
And if people, I mean, like, this is like a little bit off, but like, you shouldn't, like, I'm teaching my kids the main thing, like, you do not judge people based on how they look. It doesn't even matter. It's just the skin that we wear.
Right.
It's all about who you are on the inside. And I have to tell myself that, you know.
That was our first alarm. So I keep going.
Oh, no, I have to tell myself that every day. I'm like, you know, all right, I got a little cellulite, but it's all good. I'm a good person. And,
Right?
I'm, I reach out to my friends and make sure they're okay, and, and stuff like that. So it's a learning process, but
Yes.
I'm getting there.
Well, and so I'm going to post this other TED Talk that I found that she talks about. So there was this, well, shout out to the TED Talk, Cheryl Ziegler. It's called Why Moms Are Miserable. And she talks about this book that was like the Feminine Mystique, and it was written in 1963. And she says, like, literally the first chapter is called, what is it called? It's really cool. It's something about the problem that has no name. Okay. And what's crazy about that is it still exists today from 1963. And what that problem is this feeling mothers get of feeling unfulfilled, alone, and ashamed, being lost in the midst of motherhood. And, oh my gosh, like, you gotta watch the whole TED Talk, but like, she's spot on. And the biggest thing, that I still struggle with, like, it's still, like, I will not ask for help, like, literally until I'm forced to. What I love about Bad Moms is that it keeps me accountable, and especially when other women are sharing, then right away I'm like, oh yeah, I should share some shit. Like, I need to get this shit off my chest. I'm not the, like, do all, say all, I can't wear a cape all the time.
Right.
But I can't, it's just in our nature. It's in my nature to be a caregiver and want to be there and do everything for everybody. But it's so important for me, to allow other people to be there for me. And what she says is the solution that's so important is to have a friend, like a real, well, and you can have many bad moms.
Yes.
A real connection, not a casual friends, like a casual connection, like a real genuine connection. And it's important she talks about having a witness to your life. It's not someone that's gonna be there, that you expect to, like, do things for you, or like bring you stuff, or like help you out. Just to listen is just all most of us need. And like, that is what I get from that meeting, is to be able to walk in and totally be my authentic self, like walls are down, and I know I can share whatever,
anything.
And 9 times out of 10, somebody else in that room connects one way or another, and can say, oh yeah, that's how I felt too, or that happened to me too. And but she does say that women, we need closeness with a human being every single day. And it's not, like, that's, I think, what I used to beat myself up over was I felt so alone and lonely, and I thought it was messed up because I'm like, I have my children. Like, why do I feel this way? Like, I have friends, I have coworkers, but I didn't really, have that connection.
Yeah, and you lose a sense of who you are.
Yes.
It's like, how can you feel so alone when you're around your kids all the time? But, it got to the point where I would make jokes. I'm like, well, like, I don't even know what I'm into anymore. I know I prefer Blue's Clues over Disney.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I know that. I know about Paw Patrol. I can tell you about the movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know what my hobbies are or what I personally enjoy. And, the nice thing about talking about it, it's just like the same thing as like postpartum depression. It's not talked about.
Right.
And when it is, you realize that you're not the only one going through it. And you're like, wow, you feel alone too?
Yes,
Like, I feel really alone.
Yes.
And you're like, wow, me too. Like, let's feel alone together.
Yes, I love that.
And it's just makes the world of difference because, I found some amazing friends and in like the Bad Moms and outside of Bad Moms, where I finally feel comfortable now. My kids are 3 and 5, and I finally feel comfortable now being like, calling up my girlfriend, and I'm like, yo, are you free? You home? Can I drop Henry off? Because he's not being very nice to me, and he's making lots of red choices. And she's like, yeah, drop him off, pick him up at 3 this afternoon. And I'm like, that happened to me last week, and I had the whole day, and I was like, I don't even know what to do.
Right.
So, of course, I went to a meeting, and then I went and got coffee, and just kind of just sat there. It was, I sat in my car in a parking lot and just looked at the sky and, like, just stuff that I can't do. Just the quietness. And I was like, all right, maybe I enjoy car rides. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, what I enjoy again, you know? But it's nice having people to go through that with, because the same thing in, like, the disease of alcoholism, it's like you think, like, when I was at my rock bottom, I thought I was the only person in the whole entire world that felt the way that I did.
Right.
And I was like, nobody feels like this. Like, this, I'm not okay. Something's not right. And then it's like, I finally, you know, got help, and every single person in my life now, like, in recovery, gets it.
Yeah.
And it's just the best feeling in the world. And so it does help to take away some of that shame and guilt, because other people have felt it too. You know, like, I don't know how many times I'm in a meeting and people talk about, yeah, remember those texts you, when you were drinking, and you sent, and you had to look the next day, and you were, like, ashamed, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
every day.
I thought I was the only one that did that. But I wasn't. And it's so nice to know that, you know, male or female.
Yep.
We've all been there.
Yes.
So it's just, gosh, it's just it's just nice knowing you're not alone.
Yes.
On things. So.
Well, and finding that person that you trust and that you can, you know, interact with and really, you know, work, you know, whatever program you're working. But I know for me, there were so many things, skeletons, that I was so ashamed of. I thought I would never be able to share. And so when I found Marcy, and I was able to just list all those things out, and it was also my therapist, and to have them hear all these horrible things that I had done or that I, you know, felt about myself, and for them to still just look at me and still say, well, I still love you. I still care about you, and I'm not going anywhere. I was like,
what?
All these years that I thought, if anyone knew. Yeah. So, yeah, that's the thing, is just walking in those rooms, with whatever room works for you, but just feeling that mask can come off. And by far not ever going to be perfect, but just that's the key to, like, progressing. And I love that Brene Brown says, you know, like, that's what grows shame, is the secrecy and the lies and the judgment.
Absolutely.
And the silence about it. And the real antidote is empathy. You know, and so that's why now that I'm finally in this place where I can talk, I do want to talk, I talk about things, I make a point to share some piece of my darkness, because I know that once I heard someone else share it, it made me feel okay to share that too, you know, like let my guard down a little bit. So, and that's, you know, still, like, I'm not, you know, I still have dark days. And, but that's the thing, is there's a phone list. Use it. And especially when I can't right away figure out what's going on, like why I'm, so for me to use I realized, I've pinpointed now, was an escape for me. It was a way to not feel feelings, to just numb myself, to, you know, not want to deal with whatever. That's what I use substance use for. So when I catch myself having those, like, feelings of wanting to escape or just get out of whatever, I will pick up. I might not know what it is right away, and I might not be able to get to a meeting, so I'll pick up that phone or text and just reach out to my sisters in recovery. And you know what's wonderful is, like, Jessica or Sarah, like my besties, like, they know I'm not looking for, like, answers.
Right.
They know
you don't
I'm
want
not
answers.
looking for, I just want to be heard.
Yes.
And a lot of times when I do want answers, you know, I'll say, well, what do you think on this? Or, like, they have, like, just something real simple to say that gives me that outside perspective that just keeps me from beating myself up. Because, like you said, I am my own worst enemy. I have my own inner mean girl. She a bitch. And she will say nice. She will say the worst things. And so, but yeah, just being able to, and I always tell people, like, my only rule that I have when I work with anyone is don't hesitate. And they're like, well, what do you mean by that? And I simply mean, even if you think it's too small or you think it's too big, I don't care. Don't hesitate. If you think in your head, oh, I should call Bridge, or I should let Bridge know what's going on, do it. Don't hesitate on it.
Right.
Okay? Because that's what would get me in trouble.
Yep.
That would build up.
I had a hard time at first reaching out to people just because, like, it was new to pretty much, you know, ask for help. And even though I didn't want any answers, I just needed to get stuff off my chest. But, you know, once I finally did that and realized that, like, these people are all in my corner, it was like, oh, wow. You know, and now I have numerous people in my contacts that I can text and just be like, how are you? You know, and it's just so nice. Or, like, my husband, bless his heart, but he's a fixer. So he
Yes.
always tries, and most men are.
Yes.
You know, so you complain to them and vent to them, and they stop it, like, once they hear it's a problem, and their gears are
Yes.
turning because they're trying to figure out a way how to fix this. And I'm like, sometimes I don't want it to be fixed. I just need to say it so it's out in the
Yes.
universe and off my chest.
Yes. Most times.
Yes. And that's that. And, you know, so having the people that understand is a whole different ball game, and it's just comforting and stuff like that. But yeah. So
Well, and then I think that's why it's important. Like COVID, you know, was what it was, but it was also beneficial because it really allowed a lot of, you know, virtual stuff, and that's why we keep Bad Moms hybrid, so it's virtual. And in person, I had a lot of people that were like, "Oh, so are you going to be done with the virtual meetings now?" Because, you know, it's important that people get in, and these are. Well, I won't. Okay, never mind. I don't want to specify, but they're not people that, like, you know. For me, you know, money's tight. My vehicle's an issue sometimes. My kids are an issue sometimes. Like, it's not easy for me to get out of the house. So hell no, I'm keeping the virtual aspect because
yeah.
I want it to be something that's consistent, something that can be counted on. And damn right, sometimes I can't get my ass out of the house, but I need to get out of my head.
Right.
So I feel like it's important because, like, I know some people have the opinion that, you know, it's not the same. I don't get anything from the virtual. Well, I feel like that's BS because I always get something.
Well,
And
I feel like too. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut
No,
you off.
go ahead.
But I feel like it's just how you involve yourself. You know, like, yeah, you're virtual and you're on a screen, but you can still say what you need to say and raise your hand and talk and you know, stuff like that. So I think it's all personal on how you.
personalities.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we're pretty bold personalities. So I get a
definitely
lot.
I like the in person, but, like, I know for me, because I need a piece of recovery every day. And if I miss a meeting or 2 meetings or 3 meetings, real quick, that shit builds up.
You're right.
And I could give, I know where that distance to the ditch is right there. It's always the same. And, you know, one of the key things that I keep from, you know, ever really making that choice is, because I watch myself, if I'm even starting to plan, like, maybe, oh, wouldn't it be nice? I'm catching myself. Because all I have to think about is exactly what you mentioned earlier, is that shame and guilt that I will feel that morning.
Yes.
Even if I didn't go crazy, even if I that little seed that hey or any recovery's planted the seed in my head that I would know myself I would not even be able to enjoy use, but that feeling in the morning would not be worth not even one.
I just had a dream the other night that I relapsed.
Yes.
And when I woke up in the morning, I felt that shame and guilt.
Yes.
Because it was one of those dreams where it felt so real. And I was like, oh my gosh, so I'm laying there. You know, my kids love to wake me up at, you know, anywhere between 5:30 and 7:30. So, you know, my little 3-year-old comes in and he's like, Mom, I'm hungry. And I'm like, oh, one eye in it. And I'm like, okay, how do I feel? You know, like, because it felt so real.
Yeah.
And then I felt all those feelings.
Yes.
And then I sit up and I realized, I'm like, wow, that was a dream. And it was like the breath of fresh air of relief.
Yeah.
Knowing that, like, I didn't do that, because I don't ever want to go back to that. You know, I mean, I do take it one day at a time. It's overwhelming thinking about, you know, because we're not old.
Yes.
We're not young, but we're not old.
Yes.
And so, like, we have the rest of our lives ahead of us. So to think about that, it gets so overwhelming, just in any aspect. Recovery, you know, anything. So I really do have to take it one day at a time. And I'm learning that. And I'm getting better at that, because before I would try to worry about what's going to happen in 8 months from now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I have no control over that.
Just drive yourself a little cuckoo.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yes. I love that you brought that up, because that's one thing I think a lot of... Oh, Jessica's on.
Hi, Jessica.
Said I love you, ladies.
Love you.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. So, like, my first year of in recovery, you know, this last 2 years, was those using dreams. Those are pretty, and they don't go away. I mean, they do. After the year, I would say I definitely, far and few, But I had one recently. It was a couple months ago. It's one of those that woke up. Did I use?
Yeah.
Like, it took
They're so real.
a while to really come out of it and be like, what the F was this? And why?
Yeah.
And I do believe, like, dreams are kind of like a window into your unconscious mind. So, like, if I don't deal with something during the day, or my mind is going to keep thinking about it, and my dreams is going to, like, be like, you need to get on your shit and think about what's going on. And so, like, this last using dream that I had, it had key people in it. Mm-hmm. And it was this crazy, I'll talk a little bit about it. It was like I had used, and this other person who I know is a red flag. She's, means well, but she's kind of not, it's a risky having her in my life. But she, in the dream, she was the first one to make a point to tell everyone that I had reused. She was the first one to make sure everybody knew, before I even had realized it. And I think for me, processing that dream, made me, like, reinforce, like, yeah, I would be not only crushing my children, myself, but all the people, but it also made me, like, recognize this person and why there needs to be a boundary and why I need to, because what I realized is I was veering on that boundary. I tend to do that because I just care so much. Mm-hmm. But that was my brain being like, catching up with my heart, like, no, get your shit together. You have a boundary there for a reason. Mm-hmm. This person may be well-meaning. I like to believe that most people really are just trying to be the best versions of themselves. But unfortunately, they're not. Yes,
it just doesn't work out that way.
Yes. I read something that said, no matter how much you want to believe in people, they have their best intentions. They're not you. They're not going to have your mindset or your heart. So, like, I have to make sure that I don't get taken advantage of. Yeah. Because especially in recovery, I want to believe that everyone, means, like, we're here to support. I consider it a family, and, like, we're here for each other. But that's not the case, and it can be, unfortunately, many times. And so just always making sure to be aware. Mm-hmm. And then when I catch someone that I know has just done things that I've learned in the past, this never turns out well. It's okay to have a healthy boundary.
Right.
It doesn't mean they're gone forever, but it just means I know myself, and I could get myself in trouble trying to help this person who's not really for my benefit at all.
And it might sound selfish, but we have to put ourselves first.
Yes. Yes.
Like, especially being parents and moms, we put everybody else before ourselves. So it's like, in our recovery, our sobriety, and ourselves, we have to be number one.
Yes.
And that's just what it comes down to. No questions asked. And I had to make that was a big change for me, as I'm sure it was for you too, and just all other parents in recovery. It's like, you have to put things aside for right now, because you have to focus on yourself.
Yes. And I love that you brought that up, because that was a big thing I would fight in the meetings I would go to. They were like, I didn't like anybody telling me what I needed to do. Okay. So right away they just put this, like, defense
because you know what to do.
Yes, I already know that. But they would say, you have to put recovery first. You have to put yourself first. And before, my thinking was, no, my kids come first. Period. Like, get away from me, with that. I don't get that. To me, it was like, I thought that would be selfish. Mm-hmm. And it took a long time it took my kids being taken out of my care for me to understand I have to put myself first. And it's not selfish. It has to be a priority, because if I don't put myself and my recovery first, nothing else will be there.
No.
I literally had the empty house, and it was, very sad, but a rude awakening. And that's why I speak on it, because I'm hoping other people can learn from my mistakes, maybe, or even if they're like, I like what she's saying, but I have a conflict about it. That's when we can have a conversation about it. If it gets you thinking about it, you don't have to come to our meeting, but any meeting, and openly say, I don't get this. Like, people are saying this, and here's my, my questions, or why I'm fighting this. Like, voice that it's so important that you talk about it.
And that's the beautiful thing about it, like, about just the meetings in general. It's like, you can say whatever it is, because nobody can control your thoughts and your mind except for you. Mm-hmm. So if you you have a different opinion on things, that's okay.
Yes.
You know, it's a safe space, and not everybody's going to agree. How boring would the world be if we all agreed
I love to
on
agree to
everything?
disagree.
You know, and like another
Yeah.
thing I'm learning just real quick is like that it's okay if people, not everybody has to like me. You
Right.
know? And that was hard for me. I'm like, but like, I'm so cool.
Yeah.
But like, no, maybe I'm not, you know, but like, that's okay. It's like, in the meetings, we're all there for the same reason. And that's what it comes down to.
Right.
We don't have to, you know, outside of this, that's completely different, but we're here for this hour for the same reason. And that's what matters.
Right, absolutely. Okay, that second alarm was our hot seat.
Oh, I'm nervous.
Are you ready?
I don't know.
Okay, so I'm going to explain to you and the listeners what that is. So this is our segment called the hot seat. So, I have a sound effect that I like to play. It just makes it sound more.
You're fire.
Yeah, more intense. Can we hear it? Okay, so it's a hot seat, and what that is I'm going to ask you 3 hot and heavy questions, but they're meant to be. I literally will look up deep questions to ask someone.
Gosh.
If I can't come up with some on my own. But what's I like about them is, and of course, only share what you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But what I really like about them is something you say might be a question someone out there listening is asking themselves, and something you say they might be able to connect with and resonate with. But I won't kick you off the show if you don't answer. And no judgments, of course.
Yes.
Okay, you ready?
I think so.
Here we go. Question number 1. What's something you do as a parent your parents did or say? You never thought you'd be doing.
No, oh gosh. Like, I'm trying to think. Just some of the things I think, well, first of all, I call my mom every single day and just vent to her, and I'm like, did I do this? And she's like, yes, you did that. You know, that big saying, because I said so.
Yes! I feel bad.
I
when say
never
that.
thought I would say that. I'm like, I will explain to my children in detail. And then I'm like, wait, no. You can't explain to a 3 and 5-year-old in detail what you mean. And then when they repeatedly ask and ask and ask, and you're just like, because I said so.
Yes.
Like, I'm just, oh my gosh. Like, just stop.
Uh-huh.
You know, and like, just, I remember all the pictures, like, of my childhood. It's my mom and then me and my 2 older sisters on top of her, like on her lap, you know? And I'm like, oh, those are so cute, looking at pictures. And now I'm like, my boys constantly on my lap.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm so touched out. Like, just stop touching me. And
With space.
yeah, and I'm like, Mom, were you touched out? And she's like, yes. Do you not remember every single picture? Like, you guys were just on my lap. So it's funny because it's like, I'm doing these things and saying these things, but I also have her to call, and I'm like, did you feel this way? And she did. So,
Wow.
so it's like comforting knowing that, you know, it's history repeating, I guess. But like I said before, like, I'm not the only one feeling this.
Yes.
So yeah, but I do find myself saying a lot, because I said so.
Yep.
Like,
Oh my
because I said
gosh.
so. And
It's just not time to explain myself. Just what I say.
well, and it's not like, because I said so. It's just, because I said so. Like, just stop talking. Stop asking me.
Yes. Well, the
Please.
worst is like, I'll catch myself because they'll be in the other room fighting and yelling, and I'm like, stop yelling. And then I'm like, did I just yell at them to stop yelling? So then I bring myself into the room like, okay, we need to stop fighting.
You need to just tone
Stop.
it down a
Tone
little
it
bit.
down. Like, I gotta show them what I mean. 'Cause,
Man.
yeah.
Oh gosh. You know, one of my I was a bartender, and one of my regulars, we got really close. And we were talking one day, and he said, he was talking about a job interview that he had, and he said that the interviewer asked him, what's the hardest job that you have ever done in your life? And his response was, being a parent.
Wow.
And that I was like, oh my gosh. And that was before I had kids, so I was like, oh, can't be that hard.
Yeah.
And then I had kids, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the hardest job I've ever done in my life.
Yes.
And I hope I'm doing it okay.
Yes. Because, like, I don't judge anyone that doesn't have kids, but I feel like it really, once you have children, it really puts you on this different level of life that you will never understand until you have kids. Because, wow, it's realizing that it's not just me. There's these humans now that I'm responsible for. And
you do everything for them.
Yeah,
Your life
more.
revolves around them.
Yes. And so you have
preschool and pick up and...
Oh, my gosh.
Oh.
All the things. Okay,
Yes.
question number 2.
All
That's a
right.
great answer. Here we go. What has been your biggest loss?
My sister. My oldest sister, she died 3.5 years ago, and she was my rock, my soulmate, my best friend, everything. She was my whole entire world. And my mom was a single mom. It was just my mom and my 2 older sisters and I. So my mom worked a lot growing up, and so my oldest sister took care of us and was there and taught me everything. And she was, the godmother to my oldest. And so I had a really hard time. I mean, I was, this like relates with my alcoholism too, because I was drinking before she died. But after she died, man, I lost it like hard. And I feel that guilt and shame. My husband was like at a loss. He's like, I want to be there, but I don't know how, and, yeah. And my whole entire world just turned upside down in one day. And still to this day, I think about her all the time. Now it's 3.5 years later, and it doesn't ever get easier. It gets tolerable. And so, yeah, I just feel like it's funny that is a question, because when I finally decided that I needed more help than I was I tried to get sober on my own, but I finally realized I needed help. It was like I woke up that morning, the last day is 77 days ago. I woke up that morning and I felt her presence with me so strongly. Wow. And I could hear her in my ear being like, pull your shit together.
Oh, wow.
And because she never drank, she didn't like the person that she was when she drank, so she just stayed away from it. And I drank because, like you, I drank to cope with feelings, everything. I was happy, I drank. Sad, I drank.
Right.
Mad, anything was an excuse to drink. And so, I know she had always been concerned about me, and she's like, oh, really? You need a bottle of wine on a Wednesday? And I'm like, it's Wine Wednesday. Duh.
Yeah.
So
12 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but yeah, she is a huge part in my recovery. And to me, I just feel her with me so strongly every single day. And I just know that she is just so proud of me. And I also, her attitude is a lot like mine, and she's very sassy. So I can also hear her up there wherever she is being like, wow, it took you long enough. But of course, you had to, it took you this long to do it, but she keeps me going every single day. And I just keep her memory alive with my kids, and they don't necessarily remember her. Henry, my youngest, was 3 or 4 months old, and my oldest was 2.5.
Okay.
So, but they not think that they know her. They do know her because we do talk about her every single day.
Yeah.
And we talk to her, and just all this stuff. So she is definitely my greatest loss. But in a way, it's like I feel her with me every day, helping me stay sober.
I love that.
And yeah, it's amazing.
That's powerful.
She's the best person in the world.
Yeah.
Ask anybody.
Yeah.
She just has that, she had that energy where she just lit up a room. And you could not help but love her.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's
Yes.
wonderful. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, let's just go into, I don't need to ramble. Let's go into question number 3. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. What's the hardest choice you've ever had to make?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I have a list.
I'm like,
the hardest one. That's hard to pick.
Yeah, the hardest one. I think the hardest one would have to be when I was born and raised in New York, and then when I was 18, my mom and my 2 older sisters moved out to Seattle, and I stayed in New York. But during that time, I stayed in New York for like a year. And I was struggling really hard with depression and anxiety and drinking. And they, you know, all three of them mixed
Correlate.
together are not the best. And so finally, after a year, I had to make the decision whether to stay in New York where I was comfortable. Well, thought I was comfortable, but I was having terrible anxiety. But like where I grew up, or to move to Seattle, where my mom and my sisters were. And I moved to Seattle, and, you know, silver lining is like it was the greatest decision of my life. I met my husband. We have 2 beautiful children.
Wow.
You know, I always think like what my life would be like if I stayed there in New York, but I'm so glad for and thankful for all the things that I have now. And I wouldn't have those if I didn't make that decision. And I was 18, 19 at the time. So like that's a big decision to move from coast to coast.
Oh, yeah.
And like just pretty much like I wasn't going for college or anything. It was just I was just going.
Yeah.
You know?
It's scary.
It was scary. And so I went and got a job and just kind of winged it the rest of my life. And here I am.
Yeah.
Now I'm in Minnesota.
And yeah. That's interesting.
I know it.
And you can always go back.
Yes,
That's the
I
nice
can
thing.
always go to visit. I have people on each coast.
They're very nice.
So
Oh, I'll go with you.
let's do
I've
it.
always, it's on my bucket list to go to New York.
I'm like, New York or Seattle? Where are we going? 'Cause we can
Seattle,
go to
I
both.
think of
Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
We can go to Seattle in the summer. 'Cause
Okay.
It's beautiful. And then we'll go to New York in the fall when the leaves are changing.
Lovely.
Yeah,
Okay.
so let's do it.
Yes. Well, I really am legitly this year. I want to have a girls' trip. Ladies, no kids. Like,
Yes.
I know we got to plan it way out so we can all
Do, and
figure out.
you know what's like so many people, like I go on a girls trip every year with a couple of my girlfriends, and we are gonna start like renting Airbnbs
There you go.
because it's like you get like a whole house.
Yes.
And then like we did one last summer on the lake, and it came with kayaks,
Oh,
like
cool.
pool floaties and stuff like that. It was so much fun, and it was just like so much better than a hotel.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, and I want a group of moms with me because I always have that mom guilt. If I'm too far along, I get so I feel like I'm being selfish.
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
like we're not allowed to do
But if
anything
I have
for
a group of
ourselves.
us being like, we need to do this together, promote, it just reinforces, yes, I need to self-care and take, have that time away. And
You do.
I shouldn't beat myself up about it. Like,
I used to.
kids will be fine.
They will be.
Yeah.
It's like, and
But that
half
brain-
the time, the brain is. What the first girl trip I went on, I remember I would call my husband like literally every hour and like FaceTime me. What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
What did they eat for breakfast? What did they eat for dinner? And and then I'm like, chill. Like he is fully capable of taking care of them.
Right.
They're half his too.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
And I'm like, and to be honest with you, they didn't even ask about me.
Yes, that's what's been pointed out to
I'm like,
me.
wait a
Like,
second.
they're probably starving.
I know, I'm
It's
like,
they
oh
can
my
feed
gosh.
themselves now.
They
like,
probably haven't even taken a
snacks.
bath. And it's like,
Yeah. Why?
oh my gosh.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so we did do the last alarm, which is for, so this segment's called Live Facebook Memes.
Ooh.
And it's just for fun. And actually, I made sure not to have too many tonight because I could go off on them, but
You love your memes.
I do! Because you really have to have thought process when you do them, I feel like. And, the ones that I pick, I feel like there's good thought process in them. And so what I do is I just, through the week, I'll screenshot, the best ones. For whatever reason, it could be funny, it could have been inspirational, or whatever, gave me goosebumps. But I like to share them with someone live. And so, like Facebook, you can say if you like it, heart it, laugh out loud, and you're free to comment. Just
Yes.
like Facebook. So, here we go. And what's great is now I've been able to, I can share them with our listeners.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so what you'll be looking at, they can see. I used to make my guests have to describe, which was, that was an adventure in itself.
trying to describe a meme.
Yes.
Well, there's the sky.
Yeah.
And it says.
They go into detail, and it's like the meme has nothing to do with any of that.
Right.
But I can't gauge that right off the bat. So yeah, I'm gonna try to do these in order so they make sense with what the listeners will be seeing. And Facebook user says love you all.
Love you.
And hi Bridge. Yeah, so if you didn't click the checkbox in the Facebook, I can't see who you are, but hi back Facebook user.
Hi, Facebook user.
Okay, so now the listeners, I won't be able to see your comments for a minute, But you'll get to see the memes with us. Oh, I almost panicked. I'm like, where'd they go? Okay, so we're just going to go in order. And of course, I made sure a couple of them are, as parents, great memes.
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead and read this one out loud.
Parents, when you're winning an argument. Tastes like disrespect.
There's a fish drinking like some Kool-Aid.
Yes.
From SpongeBob. Parents, when you're winning an argument, tastes like disrespect.
I would like that. That's funny.
Well, and I know, like, especially as my children get smarter and more mature, and they know my buttons.
Oh yeah.
I really have to stop myself and realize they're testing me right now.
And then I've had to stop myself, and I'm like, I'm fighting with a 3-year-old.
Yes!
And
I'm fighting with a 10-year-old! I'm fighting with my mini-me!
Woosah.
Yes!
Oh my goodness.
Big time! And so, literally, we have a code, and we had to use it last night, me and my daughter, and I love her to death. She's very much like me, so I can't not,
it's like talking to yourself.
Yes! So, I have to say, and she's wanting to keep going, and I'm like, honey, remember we agreed? Code word. We need to take a pause. We need to take space. So you can go down to your room. I'm going to go to my room. And it was wonderful. Well, she went to sleep, luckily. But me, of course, I had to message her, because she's downstairs.
Yeah.
I'm just like, honey, see, we just need to take space. I'm
I
sorry.
love you. I love you so much.
So I could sleep. And then I woke up, and of course I came to her in the morning. I'm like, honey, I just wanted to, did you get my message? She's like, no. I'm like, well, see, we just needed space. I love you. I'm sorry. She's like, I know, Mom, I love you. I'm sorry, too. I was
That
like,
is so
boom.
sweet. But that's like right
But
there,
it
like,
takes a
hey,
while.
I'm a badass mom.
Yeah.
I'm doing all right.
Yes.
So that's got to feel great. I love that idea of a code word. Like,
Yeah.
because I need a minute from you. Like, I put myself in timeout with the boys.
Yes.
But they're banging
Yes.
on the door and stick their fingers
Physical
underneath
creatures.
the door. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But I'm like, Mommy needs a timeout before Mommy says something that's gonna hurt your feelings.
Right.
So-
We both don't want that.
I don't want to do that.
Yes. Okay. Meme number 2. There's 2 scenes. So the top scene, this is Star Trek. The top scene, he says,
A clown held the door open for me yesterday. And then the other guy says, really? He said, yes, I thought it was a nice gesture.
Jester!
That is like the memes my husband would send
That's
to me.
from the dad
And he
jokes.
would be like
Dad
dying
jokes.
on the floor laughing. And he's like, get it? Nice gesture. And I'm like, cool.
Yes. I had to, because I like the dad jokes, because they're totally dad jokes.
And they're just so like to the point.
Yep.
Like,
and just so dumb they're funny. They're
yes,
hilarious.
So dumb they're funny.
And I thought, I want to give shout outs to the dads out there.
Yes.
There's single dads out there too doing their things, or just dads trying to make
But
it
I will
work.
say, what's funny to me with like single dads, there's always that meme that's like you see a dad at the park with their kids and they're like, oh my gosh, what a good dad. And then you see moms and you're like, well, why didn't they get ice cream too?
Right.
And you're just
so
like,
judgmental.
oh my gosh, I cannot win.
Yes!
I just
Oh,
can't.
don't get me started on that.
I know.
Yes.
Simon Holland said, I'm at the age where the heated seats in my truck are more about soothing back pain than warming me up. That is a fact.
So true!
That I'm like, oh, my lower back hurts.
I've never had heated seats.
I did in my old car, but
Did
we
you?
don't in our truck.
Oh my gosh.
So
I never want to go back.
Yeah.
Especially this winter.
Yes.
It's life changing. And yes, I get that back pain, especially when I'm stressed out. Like, oh, yes. My friend Jen was in the car with me the other day, and she's like, this just feels great on my back. I'm like, I know, right?
That's what I got it for.
Get old. Oh, jeez.
I mean, it's nice in Minnesota, but
Yes.
I've healed deeply in conversations I felt hurt in. That is so accurate. I would
Right.
love, heart.
Yes.
Because I am healing. I am still healing, and it's, doing shadow work and just all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot, but...
And I feel like there is a difference between listening to someone and really hearing someone. Because for me, the difference is to let someone know, or for me to know that I've been heard, is they're just letting me have that space. Just letting me unpack my shit. Not looking for the fix-its, necessarily. I'll ask for the fix-its
Right.
if I need it. But really, just having those people that I can just unload, and they're just comforting.
Yes.
Just by being there. That's all I need.
They don't even need to say anything.
Right.
Just
They
knowing
don't
they're
need to
there.
one-up me.
Yep.
They don't need to give me advice. You know, I mean, it's fine sometimes, but sometimes I don't need that. I just need to be heard. Get out of my head. Oh, this one's great for... Did you ever breastfeed? Did you ever nurse?
I could not. I got, it spiraled me down into the worst postpartum depression.
Yes.
The restaurant asked her to go.
I love it.
But I am literally like the biggest breastfeed advocate because
That's what I'm saying.
I
So,
love that.
Yes, it's a mom. Go ahead, describe it. So it's a mom breastfeeding.
Yeah, so it's a mom nursing her baby, and
a
then
restaurant.
it says, and she's got a towel or a
Nursing
blanket over her head, and it says the restaurant asked her to cover up while feeding her baby. I love that. I mean,
Yes.
can you imagine eating with a blanket over
Horrible.
your head? Like,
When I feel like I was judged the most was when it was mothers coming up and saying, "Can you cover? Can you go do that somewhere else?" I'm like, "What the is wrong with you? This is the most natural thing
Yeah.
ever." And most of the time I was covered, but sometimes my baby freaking out, and I
Yeah.
just need to get it done. And there's this great. I'll probably share this on our moms group too. There's this great video that does this comparison of a woman sitting on a bench wearing this like bra, sexy top, and her boobs are pretty much hanging out. And then they had, and of course she had people like give her compliments or looking at her.
I know what
I've
you're talking
seen it.
about. Mhm.
And then the same exact spot, they had another woman come in and breastfeeding. And it was awful.
and they're like, ugh.
People judging her and asking her to, why are you doing this? Or, making her feel uncomfortable. And I thought, how hideous is that? And so, yes, I love this woman. And I know there was a moment, Target had some controversy, and they, I think, openly stated, like, all moms are welcome here.
Yeah.
And you're welcome to breastfeed.
Yeah,
So
and
that
I
will
love
never
that.
be a thing.
I when I was living in Washington, I don't know if it's. I know it was in Washington State. Anyways, when I was because I did breastfeed my oldest for like 10 days, and so I remember I went out. And this lady walked up to me, and I did think she was going to say something, but I was ready. Like, I am so bold and blunt. I didn't care. So I
Yes,
was like,
good.
and she actually handed me this card, and it was like a I'm with you card, and it was a card saying, like, it's legal to breastfeed your baby without covering up in public.
Yes.
And so if anybody said anything to show them it and be like,
That
I'm
is
like,
wonderful.
well, I don't feel like I have to show anybody anything. Like, I don't have
Yeah.
to justify anything to anybody. But I thought it was cool because, I just
Yes.
thought immediately she was going to come say something. So
Right.
I was already like,
Oh, that's
getting sweaty and
wonderful.
heated and ready. Like, I'm ready.
About to throw down.
Yeah, with a baby on my
Wow. I wish I would have got one of those cards. 'Cause
Yeah.
I damn well would have pulled that out.
Yes. So,
And how empowering.
Yeah.
See, that's the kind of thing that I want women to do, is to empower each other.
oh my gosh.
It's
Yes.
unfortunately like it's caveman days. Like, it's in our instincts. I did all the science research on this, that it's in our caveman instincts to feel competitive with each other. And I'll catch myself and I'm like, wait, no, why? Like, why? No. And what I do is I'll flip it around and I'm like, I need to make her my best friend now.
I know.
Because for whatever reason, I feel this weird
Like,
competitive.
I want to be your
stupid
hype
thing.
woman. You know?
Yes.
Like, I'm going to hype you up. That's why I love Jessica. She always posts uplifting stuff.
Yes.
Love you guys, this, that, I love her posts and everything because it's so just, like, empowering each other.
Yes.
And she's always so happy for everybody else, and I love that about her.
Absolutely.
So if you're listening, Jess, you make an impact on me. I love you.
Yes. Oh, I know she's listening. I can't look at the chat right until we get through these memes. Okay, ready? Meme number 6.
Yes.
Just words.
Burning sage and the kids start whining. I can't breathe. I bet you can't, demons.
That's those bad mouth thoughts sometimes.
Oh, I love
Those
it.
damn demons.
I know.
Get away from me.
They're like, yeah. What is it? Like spawn of Satan.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, this last week, I of course additionally loved my children. I never would want them
Oh
not
yeah,
in my
I love
home.
them,
But when I come home to K.I.S, it just says, it's like they know that I'm there, and they know like I love cooking. Usually, I'm gonna tell you, we've been ordering pizza and shit this week. But,
hell
like,
yeah.
They're like, Bob, could you make me this? I'm like, it's right there.
It's right there.
Heat it up. Like they've just been playing on all that. It's needy and whiny and
the
crabby,
whiny.
and it's like overkill. And so when I they can tell when mom's losing her shit because she starts cussing, and that's like a key. And I love because my 5-year-old, I'm pretty good, but he'll say, "Mom, don't say that."
Oh, my 5-year-old literally just told me the other day, "Mom, you need to stop saying so many bad words." And I said, "I'm like, what do I even say to that? Like, you win, buddy. Like,
You're right.
sorry, but you know, it's like it's hard because." They're completely different from my husband. And then I walk home, like, after meetings, it's like, hi, I'm feeling great. And I walk in, and instantly my 3-year-old throws himself on the floor. And my 5-year-old's running down, and he's, like, punching his brother. And my husband will stand up. We have a split level, so he'll stand up at the top, and he's looking down while I'm taking my shoes off, and he's like, they did not act like this.
That is a fact.
And I'm like,
okay.
See, this is what I get to deal with all day in and day out.
It is a fact.
So, like, I'm like, remember, I'm human. I still have feelings. My feelings still get hurt when I get bullied by a 3-year-old.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I'm sorry.
It's such a double-edged sword.
Yes, it is.
Well, yes. Many nights I'm like, I need to do well. Please forgive me. I'm trying the best that I can. I'll do better tomorrow.
I got bullied by a 3-year-old, please. Got me some
I
slack.
didn't mean to say that.
I know.
Well, just the face, I know I'm giving them sometimes. And I have to really gauge that because it doesn't matter what I'm saying. It's my face that says it all. And my 3-year-old, like, I'm very mindful of my face with him because he's really in tune with tone of voice, energy. I feel like he could, like, people come over. And it's weird because, well, especially women, but there's certain people he's just drawn to. It's not common. And then there's certain people that he's just hesitant about. But the people, of course, that he's drawn to, like Teresa's come over, that he's instantly, it's because she has, I feel like, has that open, understanding, loving energy, that I felt from her, so I know, like, the people that he instantly connects with because they have that same energy that I feel like I have.
Oh, you definitely do. That's why I told you what drew me back in. I was like, just your energy, your outgoing personality, your kindness. I was like, be my friend.
Let's be friends. Oh, the first night you shared, I'm like, oh, she gonna be my friend. Whether she knows it or not. Yeah. I hope I see her next week.
We gonna be friends.
I'm getting that number. Okay, here's the last one. I think it's inspirational.
Yeah, what you wish to ignite in others must first burn within yourself. And then can they see it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And I didn't understand that until I finally feel like I'm on fire.
Yeah.
In a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah. And when I realize, that if people aren't feeling that energy, it's not me. Because I used to be like, oh, it's because I'm giving off like I'm too much of myself. And I think, which is not the case at all. I do not think highly of myself a lot of times. But this confidence that I have now, it's something that I don't want to hold back.
Right.
Because I've never felt it before in my life. It's finally because I feel like I'm okay with myself. I'm good with myself. And when I've gotten bad feedback or just hating, haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate.
I realize it's just because I have to put myself in their shoes when I was that person. I remember seeing people being happy and they're just hugging, and I'm like, why the fuck are you so happy? Like, what's wrong with you?
Life is shit.
I was living in the I can'ts.
Yes.
And a lot of people talk about this, but it's so important to switch those I can'ts to I get to.
Yes. Yes, and I've heard that a lot, and I love that. I'm like, I get to be sober. I get to enjoy my weekend. I just said that to my husband today. I said, gosh, being sober is so great. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, the weekends go by slower. I don't feel like shit. We were outside all day today.
Yeah.
And I wasn't hungover. And it was the best.
Remember everything.
Yeah, I drank my coffee and my LaCroix and, just stuff. The kids and I went on a bike ride. And it's all stuff I would have done before, but I wouldn't have mentally been there.
Right.
I would have physically been there, but not mentally.
Right.
And now I'm mentally there, and it's like, my gosh, like, life is great. And my husband used to say, you're such a pessimist. And it wasn't me being a pessimist. It was just me and my alcoholic mind.
Yes.
And so now I'm like, I just see things different, and I see things more clear, and it's amazing. It's the best thing ever.
And some of the best advice I got when I first came in the rooms was Pam. Shout out again. She said, Bridge, feel those feelings. And it was so this aha moment, and I literally, for probably 3 to 6 months straight, we'd open the meeting, I'd start crying for no fucking reason.
Sometimes you can't even control it,
Yes.
and you're like, I didn't expect to cry today, but here I am.
I don't understand this for anybody. I'm crying.
Yeah.
But it was because it was like this aha awakening moment that I can be myself. And I didn't realize how isolated I had made myself and how on guard I was that I kept so much stuff inside. So I would literally shake. And I would literally like be emotional because it was so this unexplored territory, and it was scary to really be able to be myself.
Yeah, it's like you're waiting to burst at the seams.
Yes.
You know? And, oh gosh, I feel that. And it's, it's a lot of people with the disease are, children of trauma.
Yes.
And so it's like, to deal with that, like, it's overwhelming to go back and to like relive that and replay that all over again and figure out, the root. I don't, you Minnesotans say whatever.
Potato.
Just to find the center of it and just to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And so, for us, it was easier to use and to drink and to not deal with it.
Right.
So I love that. Feel the feels. I like literally tell everybody, like, people start crying if they're new to meetings. I'm like, feel the feels. Feel them. Like, I'm like,
get it all out.
Yeah. I'm like, here's the tissues. Feel
Yes.
them. Like, that, because you need it.
Yes.
Because, man, crying is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It feels so much better when you get it all out.
It's an immediate, like, physical relief.
Mm-hmm.
And what you were just talking about with your weekend, I'm finally able to really try to always be in the present moment.
Yes.
And just be appreciative of that. But also, like, especially with the tough shit. And I've had recent stuff that's just, it can be overwhelming. But the fact that when I catch myself trying to escape, the fact that I'm like, nope, I'm going to ride this wave. I'm going to ride this urge. I'm going to ride this craving. I'm going to ride this feeling out. And sometimes I have to reach out. And sometimes I have to do all kinds of different things. But it's always temporary.
Right.
I have to, even if it feels really awful, it's never going to end. This amount of shit that builds up. I know it's temporary, okay? I remind myself of that. I feel like when I'm sad, I'm like, all right, this is it. I'm just going to let it out.
Yeah.
And sometimes I play a sad song just for the moment. Like, won't continuously do it. I used to do that. And I'm like, why am I always so sad?
Yes.
But I switch it up. But when I come out of it, and I finally feel back to like my balance again, I feel that's where my confidence started to build. It's like, see,
I did it.
Shoulder tap on my shoulder, like, see, I did it. Pat on my back because I did it again. Like, I can do this. I can feel these feelings, and it's gonna be okay.
Yes.
And I don't have to escape myself anymore. And I feel like I learned so much because each time, especially when it's really heavy stuff, certain things aren't working. So then I have to explore other ways to process. And a lot of times go to other people. And that's why, worst case scenario, I will go to meeting after meeting after meeting.
Meeting
because
up.
something, yes.
I've done that.
Something someone else says. It might be the simplest thing, something I didn't hear or I needed to hear before.
Yes.
Well, that's what I needed to hear.
Yep.
So. But anyways, let's give a shout out. So, what's the meeting called? You want to tell everybody? Oh. So let's announce it officially. You're officially taking over as chair.
Yes, at Bad Moms, 7 o'clock on Mondays.
Blaine Alleno, room 4.
Yes.
Or virtually. And there's a private Facebook group. So if you want to get in on that, it's private, because we do like to protect people's, their lives, where they're at. And but that's where you can get the Zoom link and whatever, because we make sure that not just anybody can show up, all right?
Yeah. And it's a great meeting. We do, we read the Warriors in Recovery, different stories, and then we
change it up.
Yeah. Have an open topic, whatever, but at the end of the day, it's whatever you need to talk about and get off your chest. It's a safe space. And it's the best thing that I've found in the last couple months for myself.
Yeah.
So.
Bad moms.
Yeah.
Badass moms. That's what I say. We doing it together. Okay, well, that's it.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. That was
fun, right?
awesome.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, listeners. Oh, shoot. I forgot to go back to comments. That's my worst thing. I just get in the moment. Okay, good. Nobody's okay. Love you all. Well, thank you, listeners, and thank you for joining us. And I wish you all a wonderful week. It's supposed to stay nice. I don't believe the weather forecast because that changes.
Because I did see 50% snow, 50% chance of snow on Wednesday.
Right,
and I'm probably going to cry that day.
Yes.
Don't talk to me.
Here's my thoughts. So I already tried to like plan ahead, but like I see it's supposed to stay warm, so I'm like, oh, it's just gonna be like goodbye snow. Yeah, it's like gonna be there for a little bit to remind us like you're gonna be missing it when it's hot.
Yes.
But it's supposed to stay warm the rest of the week and melt.
Goodbye snow.
Yes. So. But everybody have a great week,
have
and
a great week.
We'll check in with you next week. And for those of you that are able, feel free to join us tomorrow, 7:00.
Yes.
All right, let's shut it down. Oh, I always want to end this, and now I have this music that I try to. I don't know. It gives me the feels.
The feels.
Feels music. Here we go.